Okay, that's about it for tonight. Oh, one more thing, really important. The mission trip is coming up. Most of you have given me your permission slips, but a few of you still have not. I need those no later than Thursday, so if you haven't done that yet, get on it, okay? Okay, I'll see you next week.
Hey, Debbie, can I talk to you for a minute?
Sure, Maggie, what's up?
I'm in some trouble, and I'm not sure what to do.
What kind of trouble?
My parents are going to kill me.
Maggie, what's going on?
Well, it started a few months ago. I got a friend request from a guy at another school, and we started messaging a little. He was cute and fun, and we seemed to like a lot of the same stuff. After a while, we were chatting most every day, a lot of times more than once a day. I don't know, he just seemed to get me, even more than some of my best girlfriends. One night, I was telling him about an outfit I was going to wear to school the next day, and he told me to send him a picture. After that, I sent him a picture of what I was wearing pretty much every day. He made me feel so beautiful. It was really nice.
Maggie, I'm not sure I'm seeing the problem here.
Well, the problem is, he wanted me to send him a picture of me naked.
And did you?
I did. Then he started sending me pictures of girls doing the most disgusting stuff. And he said I had to send him pictures of me doing that stuff, or else he'd post my naked pictures all over everywhere.
Maggie, I'm really glad you told me about this. I'm gonna help you out, but we have to get a few more people involved, okay?
It's just so awful.
Look, I know this is tough, but you don't have to go through it alone. I'm here for you.
The youth minister did the right thing. She contacted the pastor about what had happened to Maggie. Then the youth minister and the pastor together reported to the authorities and met with Maggie's parents. The entire focus of this training program is keeping young people safe. Safe from neglect, safe from physical abuse, and safe from sexual abuse. But great harm can come to young people in other ways as well. Technology is a powerful and often wonderful tool for young people, but it can also expose young people to grave danger. Danger from online predators and danger from exposure to pornography. Maggie thought she was communicating with a boy her own age. In fact, her online friend was a 46-year-old convicted sex offender. The old joke, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog, is true. And while the joke is amusing, the message is serious. Far too often, young people don't know who they're communicating with online. And that opens the door to all kinds of problems. One of those problems is pornography. Virtually every depravity imaginable, including child pornography, can be accessed instantaneously on the internet. Everyone who works or volunteers around young people needs to be aware of this fact and must take appropriate steps to protect young people from this offensive and damaging material. This is a complex undertaking, the totality of which is beyond the scope of this program. However, some of the most basic requirements are listed on the screen. For more information about how to protect young people from the dangers of technology, please visit www.faithandsafety.org. Maggie's online predator was apprehended and convicted before he released any pictures of Maggie or did any further damage. But far too often, young people are not so fortunate. Keeping young people safe is the highest priority for anyone and everyone who works or volunteers in our schools or parishes. Remember, offenders are skilled and they are patient. You must be vigilant. If you have reason to believe a young person is being harmed or in danger of being harmed, you must report immediately. Please consult your diocesan policies for specific reporting procedures. While young people of all ages are often targets for perpetrators, elementary-age children are particularly vulnerable. Please consider the experience and heed the warnings of these two teachers.
Okay, we are going to start reading now, so I need you to take out your reading folders. Victor, could you please take a seat?
It started as a typical year. I had a good group of kids, a few of them a little rambunctious, but nothing terribly out of the ordinary for first graders. Looking at this class back in September, it would have been hard to imagine what was going to happen.
I want to know who can do skip counting by threes. Raise your hand. Okay, Jeremy, why don't you give it a go?
3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
Jeremy's older brothers went to our school, so while I didn't know Jeremy until this year, I did know something about his family. And they're really good people. Totally committed to their kids, active in the school and the parish. Pretty much exactly what you want in parents.
A couple of months into the school year, we were taking the kids on a field trip. Jenna didn't have her permission slip. We tried to get in touch with her parents, but we couldn't reach them. We ended up having to leave her behind. I really didn't think much about it at the time, but looking back, I guess that was the first sign of trouble. At the beginning of the year, Jenna was fine. She smiled a lot, laughed a lot, and seemed to get along with the other kids quite well. But around the time of the field trip, things started to change.
Through the first half of the year, Jeremy was a completely normal kid. He got along well with his classmates. He did his work. Although, like a lot of kids, he sometimes rushed to get through it. I guess what stood out most about Jeremy was how much he loved art. Anytime we did an art project in class, Jeremy's work was almost always the best. His projects were full of imagination and color.
When I think back, it happened gradually, but really I should have seen it sooner. I guess it was the hair I noticed first. She had such beautiful hair, but more and more often it looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks. And the poor little thing, she just seemed exhausted all the time. Her hygiene was really deteriorating, and some of the other kids started calling her stinky. It was heartbreaking. I knew something was terribly wrong. I just didn't know what to do about it.
When we came back from Christmas vacation, it didn't take long to see there was a problem. I had the kids drawing pictures to illustrate what they did over the break. There were the usual Christmas trees and presents and a couple of ski trips. And then there was Jeremy's picture. You didn't need a degree in art therapy to see that something had gone horribly wrong in Jeremy's life.
One day it was bitterly cold. Jenna hadn't been at school for a couple of days, and when she did show up, she wasn't wearing a coat, just this flimsy little sweater. Later that week, one of the other teachers caught Jenna stealing food from another student.
At the beginning of the year, Jeremy was always one of the first to raise his hand to answer a question. But after Christmas, he was a completely different kid, withdrawn, uncommunicative, and easily startled. Okay, Jeremy, it's your turn. What do you call a scientist who studies weather? Jeremy, what do you call a scientist who studies weather? Jeremy.
What?
But the final straw was her arm. It was just awful. One morning in class, I saw her cradling her arm and looking like she was fighting back tears. When I saw her arm, I was horrified. Her forearm was blistered and burned. I got her to the nurse immediately. Apparently, Jenna had been trying to cook mac and cheese for her little brother and spilled hot water on her arm. No one had bothered to take her to the doctor. That was it for me. I knew I had to do something. I just wish I hadn't waited so long. I could have saved that little girl a lot of trauma.
I guess I just didn't want to believe it. But there came a point where I just couldn't deny it anymore. It was show and tell Tuesday in our class. I was standing at the classroom door talking to the school secretary about an attendance report when I heard Jessica scream, "Give it back!" I got to the back of the room in time to hear Jeremy using extremely vulgar language and simulating sexual activity with Jessica's doll. By the time I got to them, Jessica was trying to wrestle her doll away from Jeremy. It was a mess. I called the office to get some help, and we got Jeremy out of the classroom so we could start trying to figure out what was going on. But the truth is, I knew what was going on. The signs were all there. I should have taken action a lot sooner. I could have protected Jeremy. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive myself.
These are tragic stories. Jenna suffered from damaging neglect, and Jeremy was the victim of sexual abuse by a babysitter. And because they weren't properly prepared to handle these devastating circumstances, Miss Anders and Mr. Erickson will likely be haunted for years because they didn't act sooner. The tragic truth is that child neglect and abuse are far more prevalent than any of us realize. 1 in 4 girls will be sexually exploited before her 18th birthday. For boys, the number is 1 in 6. Research shows that at least 16% of children will experience physical abuse. And neglect is even more common. All this to say, in every school and quite possibly in every classroom, there are young people who are suffering from neglect and abuse. When you have a reason to believe a young person is being neglected or abused, or is in danger of being neglected or abused, you have a solemn obligation to report according to the procedures of your diocese and your legal jurisdiction. So, I'd like to ask you this. Knowing what you know now and looking back at Jenna's circumstances, when should Jenna's teacher have reported a concern? Was it when Jenna didn't have a permission slip for the field trip and her parents couldn't be reached? Was it when Jenna started coming to school with dirty hair or body odor? Was it when Jenna didn't wear a coat in the bitter cold? Was it when Jenna was caught stealing food? Or was it when Jenna showed up at school without proper medical attention for the burns on her arm? Here's one more question. Is it better to express your concern a little too early or a little too late? I suspect Jenna's teacher would report earlier if she had a second chance. Everyone who works or volunteers in a parish or school should be alert for signs of neglect. Most legal jurisdictions recognize the circumstances on the screen as signs of neglect. Please keep in mind that common sense goes a long way when identifying a young person who needs help. If you're the slightest bit concerned about the welfare of a young person, you must report that concern immediately. The signs that Jeremy was in trouble were a little more obvious. After Christmas vacation, Jeremy's artwork and demeanor changed radically. His previously colorful and exuberant artwork shifted to dark colors and troubling subject matter. His active classroom participation devolved into a distracted, almost dissociative state. But it was his sexual acting out with the doll and his graphic language that strongly suggested sexual abuse. Dr. Robert Shoup, in his book on sexual exploitation, lists these as possible warning signs of sexual abuse. Should you see or become aware of any of these warning signs, you must report immediately. But you should not try to investigate. Investigations must be handled by people specially trained to work with sexual abuse victims. Please understand that the church and school are usually the only settings outside the home in which an abused or neglected child regularly participates. Because of that, you have both a unique opportunity and a profound responsibility. You may be the only person who can save a child from neglect and abuse. Please honor the opportunity and the responsibility. The first responsibility for anyone who works or volunteers around young people is to keep those young people safe and free from harm. You have a moral, ethical, and legal responsibility to act in the best interest of the child. If at any time you have any reason to believe that a child is being harmed or is in danger of being harmed, you must report according to the procedures of your diocese and legal jurisdiction. As you've learned in this program, neglect and abuse are far more common than any of us want to think possible. It's quite likely that every day you come into contact with a young person who is suffering from neglect or abuse. Of course, it's difficult to imagine that someone you work with, perhaps someone you like and admire, could be hurting a child. But tragically, it does happen. You must be willing to see the truth, and you must be willing to act. Please keep in mind, it is not your responsibility to accuse someone of child abuse, and it is not your responsibility to conduct an investigation. But it is your responsibility to report any suspicious circumstances. If you have a feeling something isn't right, you must report immediately. The welfare of a child, and perhaps the life of a child, depends on it. Thank you for your attention to this program, and thank you for your willingness to do what is necessary to protect our children.